In the future world, the world's population will soar to an unprecedented 8 billion, which means huge energy consumption and a scarcity of resources. Within 5 years, all resources will be fully exhausted, and countries are planning to start wars for resources. In order to solve the problem of energy crisis and save people all over the world, all countries joined forces to build the large space station Cloverfield and develop the Shepard particle accelerator. As long as the Shepard works, human beings will have the power that can never be exhausted. In order to ensure its safety, people decide to put the Shepard in the space station for experiments. The mission can be long and arduous, so countries together have sent 7 representatives to the space station to do experiments. There are Ava, the correspondent from the UK, Mundi, the repairman of the space station from Italy, Keel, the commander of the space station from the United States, Monk, the doctor from Brazil, Volkov from Russia, who is in charge of life support system, and Schmidt, a physical scientist from Germany, as well as Schmidt's girlfriend Tam, the Shepard engineer from China. How time flies! By now, they have been in the space station for 2 years. In the past 2 years, they have done numerous experiments, but all of them ended in failure. On this day, Ava suddenly wakes up from her dream. Feeling anxious, she makes a video call to her husband Michael. Michael tells her that the outside world is a mess now. The oil wars are spreading, and Russia is threatening to start ground invasion, which will greatly waste oil reserves. At the same time, the situation on Ava's side is also not optimistic. They only have enough fuel for 3 more firings. If this mission fails, the Earth will be completely in crisis. The consequences are unimaginable and unbearable to them. As experiments fail again and again, the tension and anxiety in the space station gradually spread. Then, the 47th test is coming, and people all over the world are paying attention to the experiment. In the face of this great experiment, a writer named Mark puts forward a different opinion. He puts forward an assertion called the Cloverfield paradox. Simply put, once the Shepard runs successfully, it will rip open the membrane of space-time and cause multiple dimensions to smash each other, which will lead to confusion between the parallel world and the real world. At that time, monsters, demons, and other disasters will follow. However, no one cares about what Mark is saying, and all eyes are focused on the operation of the Shepard. As the firing program starts, a dazzling purple light shoots out and the space station begins to shake violently. With the success of the collision, the Shepard finally works. Just as everyone is cheering for this great success, suddenly, the purple light disappears. Glass shatters inside the space station, and all of them are sucked to the ceiling by a mysterious force, and then fall to the ground heavily. At this time, the cabin of the Shepard suddenly catches fire, but the extinguisher systems are also down. In fact, not only the extinguisher system, but also most of the systems in the space station are caused to fail by the accident, and Ava cannot contact the Earth. Just then, something more weird happens. Ava finds that the Earth has disappeared. They search all the cameras in the space station, but they still cannot find the Earth. Although no one believes it, the fact is that there are only 7 people left alone in the space station in the whole galaxy. However, more terrible things lie ahead. First, the gyro responsible for positioning in the space station has disappeared, and then there is a strange cry outside of the space station. After investigation, they lock the position of the strange cry behind a wall. After taking the wall apart, they are completely shocked by the scene before them. There's an injured woman behind the wall, and the complicated power supply wires have already penetrated the woman's body. What is even more surprising is that the woman says Ava's name. Where does this woman come from, and why is she trapped behind the wall? On the other side, Michael is suddenly awakened by a loud noise. It is an explosion occurs not far away. Everyone guesses that the war is coming. However, the government claims that it is not a war, but they can't explain where these explosions come from. At the same time, the mysterious woman is successfully rescued, but still in a coma. Others are thinking about how to find the Earth. Without the gyro, they don't even know where they are now. However, the strange things are not over. Volkov finds one of his eyeballs moves to one side and then goes back to the normal position. This makes Volkov freak out. What is more terrible is that he can hear someone talking to him. No one knows what Volkov hears, but after the conversation, he takes a pistol and goes to Schmidt. He suspects Schmidt is an undercover agent for German intelligence. Just as they confront each other, Volkov suddenly foams at the mouth, and countless disgusting worms emerge from his body. which are the worms lost in the petri dish of the space station. Volkov dies in this way, which causes a great impact to others. At the same time, the mysterious woman finally wakes up. In her memory, her name is Mina, and she has been working in the space station for 2 years. She knows everyone here except Tam, and she is the only engineer of the Shepherd. Besides, Ava should be the civilian coordinator on Earth now. Mina also secretly tells Ava not to trust Schmidt because he is the one who sabotaged the Shepherd. According to what Mina said, Keel deciphers the German intelligence's message to Schmidt. They ask Schmidt to keep the Shepherd offline until Russia is completely neutralized. However, Schmidt says that he has never received such orders. The angry Keel refuses to listen to Schmidt's explanation and locks him up directly. At this time, strange things happen again in the space station. First, Mundy's arm is sucked in a wall. After hearing the cry, Keel and Ava come to help him. When they finally pull out Mundy's arm, they find that only half of Mundy's arm is left. But strangely, Mundy's broken arm doesn't bleed, and he cannot feel any pain. At the same time, the room where Schmidt is locked up is suddenly opened. Schmidt goes out to check, only to see no one. Suddenly, he sees something and quickly calls others. When everyone arrives, they find that the missing half of Mundy's arm is moving on the ground at the moment. Facing the unexplainable phenomenon, Schmidt puts forward the Cloverfield paradox. Just as Marx said, under the interaction of particles in different spaces, two independent worlds in the universe collide and begin to compete for the space-time. This can explain those strange phenomena in Schmidt's message. At this moment, Mundy finds his arm is writing something on the ground. The general meaning is to cut Volkov open. Although it is unbelievable, they do it as told. Then, they find the missing gyro in Volkov's stomach. It seems that the collision of the parallel worlds caused the gyro and the worms to go into Volkov's body. With the gyro, they finally locate the position of the space station and successfully find the Earth. Just then, they receive a message from the Earth. It says that the European war has broken out for more than a year, and the Cloverfield space station has been destroyed, and the crew of 6 have also unfortunately died. This is to say Mina, who they found, is the only survivor of the space station. At this time, Schmidt finally realizes that it is not just two dimensions interfering with each other, but that they have even come to another dimension. Simply put, it is a time travel. The only way now is to fix the Shepherd and fire it again so that they can return to their own Earth. Otherwise, the longer they stay here, the more dangerous their station will be, because once their Earth receives the news that the space station and the Shepherd are missing, wars will break out at a faster pace. Tam guesses that the failure of the Shepherd is due to the overload caused by condensation. If that's true, ventilation can fix that. Tam decides to test her guess, so she goes to check the circuit alone, while Schmidt is responsible for restarting the ventilation system. Soon later, the system operates successfully, but there is a problem on Tam's side. There is a water leak in the barometric cabin, and a large amount of water spews out from around the cabin. Tam wants to escape, but she can't open the door. At this time, the water has overflowed Tam's head and filled the whole chamber. When others arrive, they want to open the door manually, but it doesn't work. Eventually, the cabin cannot bear the pressure and breaks. At the moment when the door leading to the universe breaks, the water in the cabin freezes just in 1 second, and Tam is frozen there forever. The crew of 7 now have lost 2 members in succession, and without Tam, the only engineer, and they will not be able to fix the Shepherd and go home. At this moment, Ava thinks of someone. In Mina's world, she is an engineer. They are not sure if Mina is trustworthy, but is the only way to fix the Shepherd. Mina agrees to help, but in exchange, she needs all of the Schmidt's work so that she can fix the Shepherd in her world. Now, in order to restart the Shepherd, Mina needs enough power support, so they immediately start to repair. When changing clothes, Ava asks Mina about her world. Ava doesn't understand why she has the courage to stay on the Earth in Mina's world. It turns out that her 2 children were accidentally killed by a fire before. Since then, Ava can no longer face the life without her children, so she chose to come to the space station. But in Mina's world, Ava's children are alive. They live a very happy life, so Ava didn't go to the space station. On the other hand, Mundy proposes to temporarily shut down the oxygen supply system so that there will be enough power to restart the Shepherd. After the oxygen pump is shut down, there will be enough oxygen left for them to use for 2 hours. When the Shepard restarts, they can use the power it generates to reopen the oxygen pump. Just then, Ava suddenly calls Keel away. She applies to Keel to stay in this world because she wants to see her children, but it is not Ava's world after all. In this world, her children have their own families, but Ava has made up her mind, so Keel has to agree to her request. Soon, the task of restarting Shepard officially starts. With the oxygen pump shut down, the power in the space station finally meets Mina's requirements. At this moment, a strange magnetic issue occurs in the oxygen cabin where Mundy is in. All his tools are stuck to the wall, and the welding material that has been coated on the pipe is gradually decomposed and lengthened. They are like tentacles, holding Mundy firmly. Then, an oxygen tank is disconnected, and it collides with the wall and explodes immediately. Mundy dies of it, and the space station is greatly damaged. Now, once the space station deviates from the set angle, everyone will die there. The only way is to separate maintenance ring of the space station, so Keel goes to the tail of the space station with Ava and Monk. When they arrive there, they realize that things are far more serious than they thought. To separate the ring, they must lock the door of the ring and separate it from the inside. This means that one of them must die. As the commander of the space station, Keel doesn't hesitate. He closes the door of the ring and locks himself inside. With the successful separation of the ring, Keel remains in the vast universe forever. As the space station is repaired, the firing program finally starts, and the Shepard goes into the countdown mode. Before that, Mina will copy Schmidt's data and bring it back to her hometown, and Ava will leave with Mina by the rescue capsule. But Mina seems to have other plans. She takes the gun in the space station, then stuns Ava and sets the launch procedure. But she doesn't expect that just after she left, Ava wakes up and stops the launch of the rescue capsule. At this time, Mina has found Monk. She kills him and gets the firing key. Then Mina finds Schmidt and knocks him to the ground. At this time, Ava finally arrives, but she doesn't understand why Mina is doing that. It turns out that Mina intended to stop them taking the Shepard away from the beginning. Mina's space station is destroyed, and all her team members died. All this because of Ava and her team. It's too late to build a new Shepard, but lots of people die every day on the Earth, so Mina can only choose to kill 3 of them to save 8 billion people. Then, Schmidt is knocked unconscious by Mina, and Ava has to run away. They come to the playroom where they have a big fight. At this time, a video of Ava's family is still playing on the screen. Looking at her family in the video, Ava finally realizes something. Ava controls the gun in Mina's hand and shoots the screen. As the screen cracks, the pressure outside the space station instantly sucks Mina to the screen. Then, the screen breaks completely, and Mina is taken out of the space station and dies in space. Later, Ava helps the injured Schmidt take out the bullets in his body, and she finally realizes that it is not her world after all. Giving up staying here means that she can never see her lost children again, but if she stays, it will only cause more chaos, and she cannot take the consequences. So Ava sends a message to herself in this world, reminding her to stop the fire. In addition, she also attaches the detailed construction and operation plans for the Shepard particle accelerator. This is the last thing she can do for her children. Later, Ava and Schmidt restart the Shepard together. In this way, they successfully return to their world and get in touch with the Earth. Eventually, they have a stable particle beam. As the Shepard is running normally, Ava and Schmidt are about to return to the Earth. On the other hand, Michael, after hearing that his wife is coming back, unexpectedly wants to stop them. However, it is too late. As the rescue capsule passes through the thick clouds, a monster suddenly emerges. That is the end of the whole film. This film tells a slightly scary and fantastic story from the perspective of parallel universe. Highly recommend this movie. We will see you next time.